Hi, AK. Thank you so much because I was straight up talking and I got to remember to add the volume to the stream. So you should be able to hear me now. If you can't hear me, let me know. But I was just saying hi to you guys and saying it's always weird for me because the camera's here, but like the chat is here. So I'm always like going back and forth. No sound. Is it still no sound? No sound. Okay, hold on. Um, why is there no sound? Oh, cam and mic. Hold up. That's the cam audio. Uh, oh, you can hear now? Okay, sorry. Oh, yeah, you can't hear. Okay, thank you so much. But yes, I was just talking to you guys about the mixture of the screen to screen and how the chat is over here and y'all are over there. But oh, duh, I can move you guys. That'll help. But yes, I wanted to do this live to kind of just talk about people who pathological lie, the presence of pain and how pain can sometimes lead to pathological lying, and how people go their entire lives suffering in silence because pathological lying does not just spring up out of nowhere. It does not. People become pathological liars because of a pattern of behavior that has been accepted, agreed upon, and perpetuated by either the people around them and or the people in their own mind. And when pathological lying goes from just white fibs, everyone lies, like that's human nature, is to protect ourselves. Lying is a defense mechanism. But some people, it goes from little white lies or small lies to like lies that turn into stories, and those stories turn into narratives, and those narratives turns into sequels, and those sequels turns into books, and books turn into movies, and now you've like your lies have just like taken over your entire life, and now you can no longer distinguish reality from fantasy and vice versa. And as I said before, that is perpetuated by the people in your life who allow you to lie, who see that there are holes in a story, or see that sometimes things don't add up, but they choose to ignore those holes or those things that don't add up because they bought in, they get in too deep into your lies too, and now it's too late to turn back. Now everyone's basically fucked, and like they know that you're fragile, right? So some people do it, they know you're lying, but they love you, so they allow you to lie to them because they love you. But my before I get into that conversation more deeply, I just wanted to let you guys know that I am launching members only live streams on my page. I'm waiting for YouTube to approve the memberships, but once YouTube approves the memberships, I am going to be doing exclusive members only lives where I'm going to be diving into some of the most exciting topics that are going on YouTube streets, more raw, like real. I can truly get down to the way I want to really, really get down in a way that I really can't if the page is like open. So if you're interested in having like true grown woman conversation, really talking and unpacking issues that that women face from a psychological perspective, from a healing perspective, from abuse to just everything that we as women go through, childbearing, everything, like what it means to truly be a woman. If you are interested in having grown woman dialogue about that, and like using examples from things that happen in the YouTube streets as a way that we can talk about it, how it happens out there, as well as how it transforms itself into our own lifestyles, then you definitely don't want to miss out, and you want to become a member on my channel. These videos will not be going public. They will be exclusive members only because honestly, the stuff that's going to be discussed in there, it's going to be private, personal, and it's not really for the YouTube masses. So whether it's 5 of us, 3 of us, 10 of us, or 20 of us, we all gonna be in there having a very, very good conversation that's not on these YouTube streets. Okay, so that's the housekeeping items. If you are not already, please continue to follow my Vlogmas journey. Sorry I didn't vlog yesterday. I was really, really under the weather. You know, I don't know what came over me, but I've been trying to get myself better. I'm feeling a little bit better today. Got some Mucinex in my system, and that Gaffiston came through like, what up, sis? Gotcha. Boom, boom, boom. So before I decide to to go into that. I just wanted to get those housekeeping items in order. Follow my Vlogmas journey if you want to know a little bit more about me. Actually, it's a mirror in my personal life. Follow my Vlogmas. But let's get into the conversation. So if you guys have not picked up a copy yet, I'm going to urge you to pick up a copy of Will Smith's book. It is called Will. It is a phenomenal read. I am at the beginning of his book. I've only made it through the first 2 chapters. But what Will Smith talks about in the first 2 chapters of this book is mind blowing. And it is going to help you to understand the presence and manifestation of pathological liars, how you can identify one in your own life, and how you can identify the difference between somebody who's just like telling little white lies and somebody who's reached full on psychosis. And it is time for a major intervention. It is time for, hold, stop the phone. Hello, abort the mission. We need to call in reinforcements because this person has gone and had a full on psychotic break. So in his book, Will Smith talks about how he is a pathological liar. He full out admits that he lies. He just lies. He can't stop himself. He lies. And these lies have continued all the way into his adult life. But the reason why he became a liar is what happened to him in childhood. So he came from a very abusive family. Well, not his mom. His mom was abused by his father, was severely abused by his father. Will Smith witnessed domestic violence in his home on an ongoing regular basis, to the point that Will Smith developed an alter. So if you don't know what an alter is, if you ever seen the movie Split, an alter is when somebody develops a secondary identity and or personality and or imaginary friend, whatever you want to call it, to protect them from the world that they cannot face on their own. So when a child experiences consistent ongoing trauma, they create a shell, right? And that shell is stronger than them. That shell is braver than them. That shell has very distinct personality characteristics, very distinct food taste, very distinct mannerisms. That alter may have OCD. That alter may not eat bread. That alter may not eat fish. That alter may have very distinct characteristics that are nothing like the main personality, which is Will. Will Smith's alter was called Megger. Megger was not even African American. He was a British boy that had freckles and red hair and was nothing like Will Smith. However, Will Smith relied on this alter to survive in his household. He relied on the presence of an entirely different human being to make it through his day-to-day life. And his mother, recognizing that her son was fragile and needed additional support, fed into the manifestation of this alter. So she would make a separate plate of food for his alter. She really bought into this story of this alter. And Will Smith needed that little boy to survive because his father was so volatile, so unpredictable, and so scary that Will couldn't handle it. But Megger was a little braver. And he's also talked about how he would develop distinct personality characteristics to please his father. And those characteristics would be him being a jokester, being funny. He said that his mood would switch immediately based on the mood he thought his father was in. So if he thought his father was angry, he could tell by the way his father's keys would jingle. The way that his father would say one word, it would automatically trigger a new alter essentially to appear, and he would become this sort of performative character whose main responsibility was to keep his father happy. That was that boy's responsibility, who was taken over at the time. So the reason why I want to talk about this is because that is a common thing that women face that a lot of people don't talk about. The presence of things like borderline personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, bipolar disorder, all of the orders and mental health crises that come into the African American community are not widely spoken about, nor are they investigated as heavily as it is in the white community. And it's something that even though I did not go to school for psychology, I went to school for women and gender studies, and I took psychology courses. I took sociology courses. I read a lot about psychology. I read a lot of books because I am fascinated with the way in which human beings interact with one another, like how we communicate, how we grow together, how we protect ourselves as Black women. And one of the things that gets really swept under the rug is the fact that there are women who truly have experienced severe, significant trauma in their life. And as a result of that trauma, they have developed these alternate personalities as a mechanism to survive. But the problem with doing that is that these distinct personalities aren't necessarily always communicating with one another. So there's a situation where somebody could be having an experience that another personality has no recollection of, that another personality wasn't even present for, that another personality doesn't even understand. And that all manifests itself because of a lie, of lies. One of those authors could be a pathological liar who makes up stories to protect themselves from things that they cannot handle. And so that person inside can be so conniving, so cunning, so intimidating, so weak, perception of weak, that they can convince other people. They can convince other people that they are in fact being abused or being traumatized, or could convince other people to believe their story. Will Smith talks about that in his book. He talks about how he would go in these streams of consciousness and he would have all of these people believing these wild things happen to him. And then they would go to Jada Pickett later and be like, so Jada, what really happened? Because did that really happen? And Jada would be like, hell no, that ain't really happen. Right? Jada's a Virgo. Hell no, that ain't really happened. Like, he's lying. But they just came to love him for it. But there are real situations where Will literally said, even I didn't know I was lying. Like, I literally believed to the core of my being that this shit really happened to me. And when you believe something so deeply that nobody else saw, there are no witnesses for, but you strongly believe it in your core, that is psychosis. That is psychosis. Will Smith obviously understands that something was wrong with him. I don't know if he ever got therapy. I haven't made it to that chapter in the book yet because I'm only at the beginning, but that is absolutely 100% psychosis. So people who pathologically lie, I think we have to consider the fact, like, is this person a pathological liar, or is one of their alters a pathological liar? Does this person legitimately believe the things that's happening to them? Are they in the presence of mind to distinguish fantasy from fucking reality? Do they know, like, did this happen? Did this not happen? And they can convince themselves. You can absolutely go into a stress, outside factors, abuse, unresolved trauma can trigger you into psychosis where you cannot even you don't even know, like, you don't know if it happened or didn't happen. And then you can convince yourself that it did, and then start to convince others that it happened. You can literally start to convince others that that shit really did happen to you. And people who are not living with you on a day-to-day basis to monitor and alter and watch your behaviors day to day, they cannot disprove these streams of psychosis that you have developed in your mind because you are so convincing about them. You believe them so heavily and so deeply. Will Smith talks about that his alter would literally make choices that Will Smith was not present for, that he didn't understand, that his alter would make decisions that Will Smith, okay, Megan made that choice. Megan wants to hide in the closet. Megan wants me to do this. Megan wants to wear cowboy boots. Megan wants, like, I am a passenger, right? You can be a passenger into your own life when you have experienced severe trauma as a child. You can become a passenger to your own life. It is absolutely 150% possible. And you could become a passenger to your own life so much so that you can recognize that you may have a problem. Like, someone deep inside knows that something's wrong with you, and that person at time may come forward and say, we need help. Like, if you ever saw the movie Split, remember how in the movie one of the alters would be emailing the psychologist like, we need help, we're out of control, please come help us, save us, save us, save us. And then the other alter would pop on and be like, sorry, it was a bad night, wasn't me, I don't know what they're talking about. That shit is real. Like, it's a movie, but that shit is real. There are true cases of alters who can take over and could be crying out for help. Help me, help me, help me. I've gone too far. And then another person could come present and be like, that shit never happened. I don't know where you're talking. We don't need help. One alter could be angry, dangerous, have a vengeance, be fucking evil and ruthless. The other one could be sensitive and scared and cowardly, like Will Smith talks about. He's like, Will was a coward, like a coward. Will would hide in the closet, was a scared little boy who was very shy and weak, didn't know how to fight, nothing. But this other alter was like brave and courageous and funny and outgoing, like, and these people could show up and take on, you know. They call them, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term social sprinters. So social sprinting is a term in which people who are, you know, extremely introverted can get into social situations and sprint, meaning they could become extremely outgoing, extremely charming, extremely funny, but it's short-lived and it's in social situations only. But then they retreat back into their shell when they get back home. No different. It's no different than that. People who can take on the presence of an other when convenient and when necessary as a method of survival. So when you find a situation where you see somebody who is constantly lying, whose story doesn't constantly does not add up, who you constantly like, did that shit happen? Damn, this shit sound convincing, but I don't know. Like, is it real? Is it not real? You have to consider. You have to consider: is this person having one continuous identity, or is someone inside really having experiences that the other is not? Is there someone inside trying to rescue everybody else from the danger of one prevalent personality? Because sometimes people can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 personalities. One can be super outgoing, super funny, super like, oh my God, I'm the best. The other one could be so self-deprecating, like, you're idiot, you're stupid, you make mistakes, you're horrible, you're a bad person. The other one could be like, I'm the victim, like Will Smith talks about. I'm the victim, someone needs to save me. Hey Dorita, I'm the victim, someone needs to save me. The other one could be evil, straight up and down fucking evil, and will like kill somebody dead ass. And one and they could, and people who suffer with mental health illnesses, particularly psychopathy, sociopathy, and this is documented in books. Again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm just someone who reads books. This is documented in books. People who are psychopaths are the most convincing people in the fucking history of life when it comes to making someone believe their story. The way that they gaslight and manipulate and confuse narratives it's almost flawless. And if you are not somebody who is trained to understand, or not trained because you don't have to be a professional, but somebody who is equipped with the tools to recognize somebody who is a complete and total fucking nutcase, you can get yourself into some serious shit with a psychopath. You really can. If you don't recognize the fucking signs on the wall before it's too fucking late, you could be into some serious shit with a psychopath. And you have to be very careful. They're very delicate people, and depending on who show up that day, anything can fucking happen. So take that into consideration when you see people who constantly lie. Ask yourself, is this person telling white lies? Is this person telling you late to the conversation. I was talking about Will Smith's book, In the Presence of Alters, and how he talks about his journey with psychosis in his book, and how people who have suffered severe childhood trauma, i.e. emotional, physical, and psychological abuse, domestic violence, can develop alternative identities to protect themselves from the pain that they are facing in their life. And I was just explaining how a lot of people, especially in the Black community, and I was so happy that Will Smith was so open about talking about it in his book. The book is called Will. I'm only on the second chapter, but it's a phenomenal read so far. It's in the Black community, a lot of people don't bring awareness to mental health issues. And a lot of people ignore the fact that people who continuously lie and lie and lie and lie and lie, at some point you got to say, well, these are not no longer white lies. White lies are like, I ate eggs for breakfast, but really you know, like, oh, I had an omelet, but really you had, I don't know, eggs fried hard, right? Or, oh, you know, I went to the mall today and I only spent $100, but really you spent, you know, $120, right? Like, when white lies are lies that do not cause significant financial, physical, or emotional harm to other people. That was what I would consider white lies. Pathological, dangerous lies are lies that could literally ruin someone's life, destroy someone's reputation, ruin someone's career, ruin someone's self-esteem, hurt someone physically. When you reach that level of lying, like you go over the bridge, right? You go from white lies to like dangerous lies. At that point, you got to consider, is this person dealing with a much deeper psychological issue? Is this person dealing with a much deeper psychological issue? And if they are, what do you have to do as a person who is cognizant and aware and has common sense? What do you have to do to protect yourself from a situation like that? What do you have to do? Right? Will you continue to feed into that narrative? Like Will Smith's mother fed into the narrative of his altar. Like, his imaginary friend, right? She was making that kid separate food because the kid didn't eat certain food that Will Smith ate. She was making 2 plates of dinner. Like she fed into it deep. And as a parent, I was like, whoa. Like as a parent, I understand she was just trying to help her son cope, right? It was a coping mechanism, and I'm sure his mother was dealing with her own trauma. She was severely in a severe domestically abusive relationship. So I'm sure she had a lot on her plate. I don't know his mama. I can't speak about what his mama was going through emotionally. All I can speak about is what Will Smith said. And in the book, he said his mother fed into his altar. She fed into it. And I just think as a parent, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to our children and to their mental health to say, I can't. Like, I am not going to exist in this false reality with you at this age. I'm not going to exist in this false reality with you. I'm going to make sure that you can stay present as one person in the real world, because that is my responsibility as your mother, is to make sure I am not going. And my parents know when their children are having psychotic breaks. Parents know what their children are capable of. Parents know when their children are lying. You know your child. And it is a responsibility as a parent to say, okay, I'm not going to let you do that. Okay, I'm not going to let you hurt anybody. Okay, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you. But people who experience psychosis can go so far down the rabbit hole. They can go so far down the rabbit hole that they believe their own delusions. Like Will Smith said, he believed his own delusions. You could go so far down, you believe it. And that's it. Once you go down that rabbit hole and you start believing your delusions, to be fair, not all the time. Non-white lies also cause other parties to suffer. I agree. I agree with you. I was saying white lie. I don't know if you misinterpreted what I said, or maybe you came in late. I'm not sure. But I was saying that what I consider to be a true lie, right? That's not a white lie. What I consider to be a true lie is a lie that can cause serious emotional, financial, or physical harm to yourself or someone else. And that lie can become the precipice for more lies that just go on and on and on. And then you lie so much that now you're in this stream of lies that you can't untangle the web that you weave for yourself. You're just stuck. White lies, I don't know. White lies are lies I feel don't cause harm to anyone else or yourself. And they're not lies that you, you did hear my reason. Okay, I wasn't sure if you heard me. I just think that as a parent, as a friend, as you have to keep people in the real world. You have to keep people in the real world. You have to say, I do not receive this lie from you. I do not receive stories that do not add up. I do not receive BS. I do not receive it. I am going to point the holes in your story, and I am going to make you justify what you're talking about, because people who lie and who thrive sympathy from their lies will not stop at what they will do to prove that their lie is fact. Let me repeat that. People who lie and derive sympathy from their lies or gratification from their lies will go to any extent to prove that their lie is actually true, up to and including creating false records, presenting false evidence, gaslighting people into their beliefs, holding things against your head, confusing stories, taking something that is taking a truth and expanding the truth to subvert the lies. Meaning, let's say I tell a story, right? I'm gonna just make this scenario up. I tell you, okay, so today, you know how they have that thing, 2 truths and a lie, right? That game where it's like you tell 2 truths, you tell 1 lie. People who are skilled liars or who suffer from psychosis and that causes them to lie, they will tell 2 truths and 1 lie. The lie will be severe and crazy, but the truths will be like legitimate truths. And when you start to unpack their lie, they'll circle you back to the truth. Like, no, because I did leave out at 6 o'clock. You saw me. Did you or did you not see me leave out at 6 o'clock? And you're like, yeah, I saw you left out at 6. So if I told you I left out at 6 o'clock, you definitely know that happened. Why are you sitting here telling me that this didn't happen? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like they'll exacerbate the truth to subvert the lie. And then you'll get so far down the rabbit hole arguing about the truth that you forget that they told a lie that y'all never really got to unpack. That's what skilled liars do. You got to be aware of those people, be wary of those people, and protect yourself from those people because they're fucking dangerous. Okay. And if you miss the signs and you go down that rabbit hole with somebody who has experienced that level of crazy, you never know what the consequences could be. You got to be very careful. You got to be very careful and be protective of yourself. So I wanted to bring that up. And I also just wanted to talk about how, people in the African American community, particularly women, how important it is for us to carve out space for ourselves to have real, true, and authentic conversations, and to have conversations where we can admit our vulnerabilities and we can admit that we may be struggling or suffering. No, if you're just joining live, this is about I was talking about Will Smith's book. It's called Will, and he was talking about in his book his presence of alters. I'm talking about how people in the African American community is known that most people who are impacted by borderline personality disorder are women. That's a statistical fact. However, men can experience borderline personality disorder. They can experience delusions. They can experience multiple personalities. Will, in his book Will, which just released, talks about in the first 2 chapters how he had a presence of an alter and how that alter had his own identity, own food preferences, own everything. And that led him to develop these narratives and streams of consciousness to protect himself from his severely abusive childhood. So if you haven't read Will Smith's book, please pick it up. It's an amazing read. I'm only on chapter 2, but it's phenomenal. And I just wanted to talk about how that impacts the African American community and how we as women and as people of color, I feel should be more open and more transparent about how it impacts us and how we can recognize the signs of it, especially in ourselves and in others. Amir, when you say alter, are you talking about an alter ego? No, I'm talking about an alter. I'm talking about a distinct. Have you ever, Dorita? I don't know if you ever saw the movie Split. There's a movie called Split, and the Split is about a guy who has, like, I want to say 22 unique personalities. I think it was 22. I haven't seen the movie in like a year, but he basically an alter ego. Well, I guess could be like Beyonce and Sasha Fierce, right? I guess, but I think that's a little different because an alter ego, when I think of alter ego, I think of somebody who shows up temporarily to like, like, yeah, when I go out, I put my freakum dress on, I'm a bad bee, right? Like, but it's not that this person has his own characteristics. When I talk about an alter, I'm talking about an entirely different being who has preferences, beliefs, feelings. I didn't like they, like when you look in the mirror, you don't even see the same person. I'm talking about alter. Like I'm talking about a distinct person that is absent of you. And that when that alter is present, the main personality is just a passenger. It's like somebody getting in the car and driving, and you was in the driver's seat, your alter shows up. Now you might be in the back seat and you might be just watching your life. Like, is this happening to me? Like, did that happen? And the alter can have experiences that the other person did not. So Will Smith talks about in his book how he developed a imaginary friend. Was like, he calls it imaginary friend, but it was basically like an alter. And this person would show up to keep Will Smith company to help him cope with his extremely violent childhood, which is also a sign of schizophrenia. He didn't say he was schizophrenic in the book, but if you read about schizophrenia, seeing things that are not there and believing them so much so that you are asking your mother to prepare a meal for this person that is not there, and you're imagining this person eating the food, this person has an age, an accent, a look, and all of that, that is straight up schizophrenia. He described textbook schizophrenia, 100%. So yes, that's what I was talking about. I didn't know his father was so abusive. Yeah, me either. I never knew, but his father, he talked about it in the book, was severely abusive to his mother. He would like punch her and knock her out cold, and Will Smith witnessed that. He talked about an event where his father beat his mother so bad that, and Will Smith was there, and he still to this day carries that burden in his heart that he was a coward and that he couldn't protect his mother. He froze, like he just froze and did nothing. And he said he still has not been able to get over that. And even in his, I don't know, he's 50 some odd year old life, he still suffers and he still struggles with that. It's like, that thing that hold in your heart. And I think if you ever paid attention to Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith, she talks about how Will said that he will not tolerate abuse, that if she ever puts her hands on him, he's leaving, he'll never come back. And that's why, because he experienced a lot of abuse as a child, and he can't handle it. It's a trigger for him. And I just wanted to talk about it because I think in the Black community, people who experience childhood trauma, abuse, whoopings, you never know how getting popped, getting whooped, getting assaulted sexually, physically, emotionally, could force you to develop people to protect you, like an altar. And you can believe this altar can have experiences that you don't believe were yours. They were theirs. Like, like I didn't do that. Like, she did that. And she did that. She's responsible for that. These altars can have, you should watch the movie Split. It really goes into it a lot more. I know it's a movie, but it's a lot of people. If you look up dissociative identity disorder on YouTube or on Google, you can watch videos about it. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And like, it happens a lot to people, and a lot of people don't notice it. I didn't know his father was so abusive. Okay, I got it. He would mention his abusive father vaguely in the past interviews, but no details. AK said, that's why I don't believe in staying for the kids, because a lot of times they go, oh, absolutely. I don't believe in that either. Period. I don't believe in that at all. Whatsoever. Staying for the kids is by far the most toxic thing you could do to your children. It is so toxic. No 2 kids, no 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, no kids should ever have to grow up in a household where they are living in constant chaos and unpredictability. Because when that happens, your personality and your sense of comfort is formed at a very, very, very young age. Like, your core being, like your first person. I call it first person. But your first person, like your one identity, is formed as a young kid. Sometimes 5, 6 years old, 4, 5, 6 years old, 3 years old. Hell, there's kids, adults out here saying, yeah, when I was 3 years old, I still remember the time my mom did this or my dad did that. Like, when there's an event, I call them events. When there's an event in a child's life, that event causes a scar on the brain. And there's a part of the brain that deals with trauma. I read about it. I want to say it has a very long name. I made videos about it earlier when I started my channel, and I put them on private. But if I go back and unprivate the video, I could tell you the name of the term. But if you Google it, Google the part of the brain that deals with trauma. And I can't think of the word for it. But there's a part of your brain that deals with trauma, and that's the part of your brain, it cannot rejuvenate. It cannot rejuvenate itself. So when you constantly face trauma, you create like a scar in your brain that can never be repaired. And so an identity can come forth to protect you from that trauma as a method of survival. It's like your brain coping with pain and trying to help you survive. You know how they say, like, your brain, when you experience trauma, you'll go into a coma. It's your body trying to like preserve all its functions and let you have peace to heal. Or like they'll put you in a medically induced coma to allow your body to repair itself without like outside influence. That's essentially what happens when another identity springs forward. It's essentially your main person going into like a coma, a temporary coma, so that you can survive whatever situation is in front of you. But when you go down that delusion rabbit hole so deep and your delusions go unchecked, like you don't have a truth teller in your circle. See, Will Smith got him a truth teller, which was Jada Pinkett. She was like, you're effing lying. You're lying. You are lying. Why are you looking me in the face and lying to me? He got himself a truth teller who was like, she coined herself as his like person to disprove his lies in front of people. Like, Will's lying. That did not happen like that. Why is he lying to y'all? Like she became that person in his life, and he accepted her for that role. Like, okay, this is my person who's going to keep me on the straight and narrow and on the truth. That's how I took it when I read it. I'm like, oh, okay, she's his truth teller. Every person who experiences something like that, you need a truth teller. That truth teller can be your therapist, it can be a psychologist, your psychiatrist, it can be a friend, it could be a mom, it could be a father, it could be just someone you love and trust to say, hey, look, I know that's what you think happened, but that's really not how the story went. That's not how the chain of events happened. Are you sure? Like, but when you feed into that, like if you feed into someone's delusions, that's called enabling. We're conditioned to keep our family together no matter what to do to avoid stereotypes in their appearance physique. I think that's like something that definitely was very, very, very prevalent. It still continues today, but it was a big thing, especially in like the 80s and the 90s. Like keeping your family together and like not, having a father be present inside the home and stuff like that. And I'm a big believer in that. I do think that children benefit when they have a two-parent household. I don't have anything against that, but I do think that once the abuse start becoming severely physical, emotional, or financial, I'm like, save yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to put your kids through that. Your kids may never recover from that level of trauma. Never, 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 never. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of come on and talk about like, how those issues affect people in the Black community, how we should be like more cognizant if we see the signs of it, if we recognize it in a friend, family member, or loved one. We should be like, hey, I don't know about that, and bring it to the forefront. I don't think that there should be stigma around it. Like, I'll definitely be like, that's definitely not how that happened. Like, I've had conversations with clients, I've had conversations with friends where I'm like, that's not how that happened. Like, did you really say that? And I've had people flat out tell me that in order to tell a convincing story, they have to believe their own lies. Like, yeah, I know I'm lying, but I believe my lies so much because I have to sell this story. And it starts out small. It starts out like, oh, just a little story lie, but then you got to keep lying to keep your lie. Like that first lie you told, you got to tumbleweed the lie so that you can keep on going. And then you go so far down a rabbit hole, you forgot what the first lie was. Now you like, damn, that really must have happened because how did I get so far deep into this hole? And that's why when you see somebody lying about something that can cause physical harm, emotional harm, financial harm to them or someone else, you got to be like, no, I do not receive that lie from you. I don't receive it from you. That's not how it happened. That's not the way it was supposed to happen. It couldn't have happened that way. And we need to keep you here present in the world that we are in right now. Like this world here, because that is not what happened. And that obligation is from family and friends. If you are a friend or family member of somebody who you know is lying, you have an obligation to tell them that they're lying and are not being honest. But that was my little check-in live for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I have some things I need to tend to. Hopefully I start feeling better. I'm going to try to get some vlogmas footage today. And I hope you guys have a great remainder of your, Monday? Dang, that came quick. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.